Track fans, field fans, all around athletics fans, what's going on? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. So happy you could join us on this Monday evening, August 29th of 2022, when we are recording. Hopefully you're listening soon. We'd like for you guys to do that. I'm Alex Cuesta. With me, as always, my co-host, the man, the myth, the talent of the show, Dave Hyatt. What's going on, Hyatt?
Not much, Alex. I just got to start off by saying I was dead wrong on an earlier episode of this podcast. We were kind of shitting on the Diamond League. They are putting together some amazing meets. And I just got to say, thank you, Diamond League. You have given me so much entertainment over this past month, and I can't wait to keep watching these next two meets.
I'll maintain my shitting on the Diamond League. When it's not a Peacock exclusive, then I will stop shitting on the Diamond League. Once it goes back to being on, more cable, once I can get a deal with Fox, NBC, ABC, somewhere where it could just go, then I won't shit on it. And when I have to pay extra money for another streaming service just to watch track, and in America, people suck at watching track. That's me. I digress. But we have a great episode coming up for everybody today, because joining us are people that both Hyatt and I are close to. I'm good buddies with them, and I've actually coached both of them. Hyatt coached both of them. They are two guys that have started a podcast named Tight on Entry Podcast. It is a NASCAR podcast, but both of these guys ran collegiate track. One's a coach. One works for a place that I always wanted to coach for. Well, didn't coach. He works for a place that I always wanted to work at. Hyatt didn't have the ability to want to work there because there was no internet because he's a dinosaur.
I am old, yes. I'm old.
But they are John Davern and Alex Lynch. What up, boys?
How's it going? This is John Davern's voice over here, and then Alex is still with us.
That was really morbid sounding. He's still with us.
Is he still with us?
Alex, you there? Did Alex freeze? We've been having some technical difficulties with Lynch, man. He's been freezing a bunch. We're going to keep going with Davern. What up, John? How's everything going?
It's going good. It's going good, Like you said, Tight on Entry Racing Podcast. We haven't recorded in a while, but we're going to get back on it this week for the NASCAR playoffs that start on Sunday. They're over in Darlington this week. But yeah, really excited to join you today, and thank you for having me.
I'm absolutely excited for it because, there's kind of a correlation between the NASCAR and the track thing, because what do we both do? We like going left and turning and moving fast. So it kind of all fits in.
Driving in ovals.
Yeah. And I think that's always what, you always get in those arguments with your teammates. Oh, NASCAR is not a sport, I'm like, guys, who are you arguing with right now? We're doing the same thing. Just no. Instead of sitting in cars.
Your brother get in those arguments with everybody else. There's rare people. I was a NASCAR fan, but I just didn't care. I didn't care to argue. It's like, I'll sit down and flick between football and NASCAR on Sundays. You don't have to. But no, that was just you and your brother Scott arguing with everyone, Davern.
Hey, sometimes it's better just sit on the side and listen to those arguments anyway.
So, first off, we talked a little bit about Tight on Entry NASCAR podcast. Everyone go and look for that. You can find that on Spotify, right? Is it anywhere else besides Spotify right now, or is that its only home?
Right now it's on Spotify only. Spotify exclusive, some would say. But right now it's on Spotify. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Mainly Twitter, not so much going on over on Instagram. So
beautiful. So your job, what do you do? Tell us about what you do, because it's actually important and really relevant to this show.
Yeah, so I'm actually the Pennsylvania state editor for Pennsylvania Mile Split, also known as Penn Track XC. And basically, I'm in charge of covering the side of Pennsylvania and our wonderful student athletes and coaches and teams. So it's a lot of writing, a lot of video work, a lot of photography, kind of do it all. You're kind of a SID for the state of Pennsylvania, per se. Whereas a sport information director would be working exclusively for a school. So it's definitely a lot of work, long hours, but, so far I've been really enjoying it and kind of, being that guy to give coverage to people who wouldn't necessarily get it otherwise.
So essentially, Hyatt, what he's saying is he's officially the plug in Pennsylvania for this show, getting the top athletes in PA.
There we go.
What do we think here?
Yeah, I definitely can help for some connections, but maybe you guys could pay the favor back too somewhere. So you never know.
Listen,
Whatever
I know
you need, brother.
I know as a former high school coach, we became so dependent on mile split. It was almost like the Bible. You have to enter meets there. It's where you go to check out all the results. I mean, it's become like the lifeline for, at least here in New Jersey, and I'm sure it's very similar there in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's for coaches, for athletes. It's just an amazing site with such a vast amount of information. It's a beautiful thing.
And that's really one of the focuses, is just kind of making it the go-to place for people who want information about high school track and field. And obviously the national team does stuff, college-based stuff as well. But in the state of Pennsylvania, we're more focused on high school athletes for now. And really just making sure you can go to our website and get results, or a schedule, or you can see where your competitors are at, what they've run, who are the top guys in the state, who are the top girls in the state. You can see what teams are nationally ranked. So to get all of that, plus you can get video coverage, photography coverage of your meets. It's just a great resource for young student athletes. And it's really cool to be able to kind of, like you said, be that plug for all of our student athletes. And I think there's a misconception that it's, super hard to work in the track and field industry, but I can tell you from experience that, I've only been working here for a month. If you're a student athlete in any state, there is an editor in that state who needs help, needs work, and they're willing to pay for it too. So if you are in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, just reach out to your state editor if you're interested in working in the field. And I'm sure they can get you some side work on the weekend if you're looking for it.
And I have to say this, one of the things I did when I took the Talking in Ovals Twitter, because we also have our Twitter at Talking in Ovals, is I went, and Milesplit has done an amazing job of just having at least a presence on social media and some coverage of every single state. You can get a Milesplit for any other state, and they are really good. I know me and Haya, we both obviously share the Twitter, and we're looking, and they are covering all the early high school stuff. And you could see all the amazing times, and I get all my stuff. Milesplit is amazing for that. So, you're a good ambassador for your company. They're lucky to have you, Davern, because we know you're a good, hardworking dude. So,
Absolutely.
They're lucky to have you. You come from a great family, a lot of good people. So I'm pumped to see what you do. Now, Lynch, are you with us?
I think so.
Hey, here he is.
There he is.
So that is the second half of the Tight on Entry podcast. Lynch, tell us a little about yourself. Ocean coach. You coached a meet a champion in the 400 meters. Talk a little bit about yourself. Give some humble brags.
I will give some humble brags. So, like Alex said, I coach and teach Ocean Township High School.
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
Oh, no. No.
I think we lost him.
He's back. He's back.
He's back.
We started.
He's back.
So I technically am on the girls' side for coaching. So it's like weird, like how high schools work. You have like the technical like terms of like, oh, you're the girls' coach, but it's really like you're all over the place.
Absolutely.
So we had a kid this year, Alex Sadikoff, won the meet of champs this year in the 400. I honestly forget his time because he was just running so many good times this year that
I think it was like 49.6 for the MOC, but his PR is like 48.815.
Yeah, and then he technically ran a 46.99 or something like that at Penn Relay. So yeah, it's a split in a relay, but it's still at one of the most prestigious stages you can do it at the high school level.
And I have to say, in one of the most frustrating places to run at Penn Relays, because if anyone's ever run Penn, you're listening to this and you've ever had to wait in the waiting area where it's just a concrete waiting area, you have your spikes on, and you're just sitting there, and it's like, okay, check-in is about an hour before your race, and you're just sitting there getting cold. It's incredible that anybody runs fast at Penn Relays.
I disagree, man. You are so pumped up to. I mean, I remember like I was lucky enough where my team qualified in high school in the 4x800 every year. So like you get up, it's like 8:30 Saturday morning, and then you just go and run. And like I guess it's a little different now, but when I was in high school, Bill Cosby was there handing out the batons to everyone every year. I mean, obviously
Cosby was there the years that I was there. He was there and doing his thing. Can we be positive about Cosby? Is that okay?
Listen, I got to get the baton from Bill Cosby, and that was pretty cool back in 1996.
Temple legend in both track and football. For people that don't know, he's not just a raper of women. He was actually a good athlete. So we can give him props where it deserves, but obviously he's not a great dude overall. So yeah, Lynch, talk a little bit more about what that experience was like going to meet a champs, watching him win. Like I've coached, Hyatt's coached. I've never coached a meet a champs champion, or even just been in the vicinity of one. We got close when we had Mason Jones do third in the triple jump. That was really cool to watch. But cool. Outside of seeing Mason, I know Damari Brown did good in the triple jump this year. I think he took second in meet a champs for Manchester. So Manchester's had close.
Closest I ever got was Eddie Baines was third in the indoor 32.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like it's real difficult to win. So Lynch, what was that like?
It's so fun, like just watching his work ethic every single day. And like, since technically I'm not part of like on the boys' side, I'm not technically on the boys' side. I'm usually on like the sideline coaching him a little bit, trying to help him out in any aspects he needs. But he's like one of those kids that will go to every single coach, and he'll even come up to me a couple times and ask about like what he should be doing differently here and how he should be racing. He even asked me a couple times to help him out in like the 400 hurdles a little bit, because that's actually where I got thrown into when I started coaching. Was they were like, we need someone to coach hurdles. So I was like, all right, I'll try and learn as best as I can. I've never gone over a hurdle in my life, but I'll figure it out. And he would come up to me because he was still running, like he runs like a 52-second 400 hurdle time. Wow. So he's like a jack of all trades. Like we could throw him anywhere. We could probably throw him in an 8 and he would be running like 205s if he really put his heart into it. But it's just like,
he'd be running a 157.
He ain't running 205.
Yeah.
48 split. He's running faster than that.
The reason I say 205 is because he doesn't put his heart in it half the time. Is he's like, no, I'm a 400 runner. So if you can convince him to get it, he can get there.
His eyes closed.
Yeah. So it's like, it's really fun to see a kid like that come in. I think he actually is Ocean's first meet a champs winner on the boys side. I have to look it up again. I think he is. But we have a lot.
They had a pole vaulter years back.
Yeah, that's right. We did have a pole vaulter.
He was like almost like 17 feet in.
He was. So Lynch, really where's he going to school? Has he picked a college to go to and compete?
We haven't made a confirmation on that yet. His other coaches, his other coaches know more about it, and he's still trying to make decisions on it.
Is he looking to go high D1 with that time? I'd imagine he has some pretty good schools coming after him.
He's been getting some traction. So I'm curious to see what he decides to do. I haven't talked to him since June about this stuff. I'm sure he's been talking to the other. He actually is on the cross country team this year too, and I coach the girls' side for cross country, so I haven't seen him all summer. But it's fun, like doing hurdles and stuff too. I even had a girl this year. Her name's Sam Trent. She got like 5th or something to meet a champs for hurdles. Well, she would have been 5th, but she kind of didn't have the meet she wanted to. But she was top 2 in groups, made it all the way to meet a champs and things like that. So she's another girl that's going to be able to come up. And we have insane amount of studs on the team. And it's like so fun to be in only year 3 of coaching and see these many kids come up. And I'm like, wow, when they leave, it's going to be hard.
You know what, though? You find that you reload. And as long as you have a good culture, then it keeps coming back. And I also have to say one thing, send them all to Marist. We don't have a track. I just like fast kids going to Marist. Send them all there. We'll take every single one. Girls, guys, just do it. I'm whatever.
That's our homework plug.
Marist. I'm doing the homework thing. All right. Let's jump into some talk about Diamond Leagues. I'm done talking about you guys. Let's talk some Diamond League stuff. There was a absolutely fantastic meet in I'm Uncultured. Lausanne, Switzerland. Is that how you say it? Lausanne? Anyone know how to say that?
I say Lausanne.
Lausanne or Lausanne. I don't know. It's like Saucony or Saucony, you know?
I was trying to just sound fancy, but you guys just, just shit on me there. All right. So, great meet over in Switzerland. I don't care what part of Switzerland it was in, but there was a fantastic Diamond League meet. Again, I don't shit on it for the competition. I shit on it because it's on Peacock. But the competition was amazing. So we had a lot of good times. We're going to do what we've been doing. We're going to kind of run down, talk about it. And I think we should save Ingebrigtsen's race for last because he's going to kind of foil into something else. What do we think, guys? We'll talk about him last.
Sure.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
All right, well, I want to start with something that I don't feel that we've talked about enough, and that is a field event.
Let's go.
Joe Kovacs taking down probably the greatest thrower that we've ever seen in the history of our sport in Brian Krauser, 22 meters, 0.65 to 22.05. Again, I wish that I was, smart enough to be able to figure out what that is in feet, but My brain just doesn't process things that quickly. But I mean, just to see Kovacs come back, because I mean, I can't think of the last time that I saw Ryan Crouser lose a shot put. It's been a long time. He's just been dominant, breaking world records almost like 75 feet almost every meet. And to see Joe just go out there, take the lead early, and then just be able to hold on, I think it's just great for the sport.
It certainly is. And I used a Google machine and I Googled what the conversion is. The winning distance was 74 feet, 3.732 inches. Now, I don't know if I can throw like a baseball that far. And they're throwing a shot put that far. Like it is like don't laugh at me, Davern.
I really hope you could throw a baseball.
I am physically weak for a man, okay?
You can't throw the ball from second to first?
No. I'm Chuck Knobloch. I'll throw it into the third deck. All right. No, but that is, and Lynch, you put it that way, throwing it from second to first. Yeah, try throwing 15 pounds from second to first.
16.
16, exactly.
Baseball.
Yeah, it's incredible. All of us here were runners, but you guys, we can all appreciate the good throws and stuff and these types of wins. Do you guys know Kovacs and Crouser? I hope you guys know those two names. They've been the best.
Yeah, I know
American
the names.
throwers
Like
forever.
I'm not well diverse in it, but it's like every time you would be watching these meets, like whether it's a diamond meet or like Worlds or the Olympics, whatever it was, when you saw those two names pop up, you're always like, all right, we're gonna have an absolute show between these two, because it's always been like that I feel like it's been ramping up the last couple months too between them two, and it's just so fun to watch them throw. I don't go out of my way to try and watch it, but when I catch them, it's just so electric seeing how pumped up they get after throwing and how sportsmanlike they are to each other, and they kind of help each other out each time. It's awesome to see, especially on that big of a stage.
I got to say too, the best thing about Peacock is that they give you the world feed, so you don't have all that fluff that you would have if you're watching on NBC, where they have like an athlete bio every 3 minutes, and then you don't see the actual field events. They actually show multiple throws. And I don't know, I just really like the world feed because it's kind of a non-biased. It just they kind of tell you exactly what is happening and what you're watching. And like I said, you don't have all those like individual bio pieces that just take up 25 minutes of an hour broadcast.
See, I will make an argument for Peacock in the sense that for fans of track and field, you do get, that entire experience. Whereas if it was only on NBC, well, okay, you might get the last 2 hours of the event, but you're going to miss, the events that they deem people don't like or people don't watch. And usually events like steeplechase are going to be the first one to be cut. Granted, I know Diamond League doesn't do steeplechase anymore. That's a whole nother topic. But
there was a steeple race. They had one Jaeger, and they had a steeple race at Switzerland. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, I didn't even see that, but
yes.
I'm looking forward to digesting it.
Yes.
I thought they had cut that event though.
They were going to, and I think the uproar stopped them.
Okay.
And also the thing that I like about Diamond League is like it's not every event, every meet. So like these athletes have to choose. Like you don't have like, I think this meet was the men's steeple, and then next meet will be women's steeple. So they kind of alternate, especially in the distance events. But I do like what John was saying, how it's nice that you get to watch an entire distance race without going to 6 different commercials or have it small screen while they're showing throwing events. It's just nice as a distance runner to be able to watch the race in its entirety and not just be like, well, that guy was in 5th, now he's in 1st, and then they went to a commercial and I missed it. Like, what happened?
I get that. But golf has a channel. And what do they do with the golf channel? When they're showing the thing, you'll see the beginning of the round on Golf Channel, and then when the big dogs get there, they switch to the network. Nothing stopping track from doing that. All track needs to do is be able to promote their athletes at every single meet so people know who they're going to see. That's been our complaint for the first 3 episodes, that track is bad at consistently guaranteeing the athletes are going to be there.
But I think the barrier there is money. I mean, it's a lot easier for golf to guarantee that there's going to be a $8 million purse at a smaller event compared to track and field, where the highest paid athletes are barely making $15K at a meet. So that's obviously a huge barrier. And if you are a top athlete, like let's use Sydney McLaughlin as an example, you're not going to race more than 4 times a year because doesn't make sense for you to race more than 4 times a year, especially if you're just going to go out there and try to break a world record where you can, get that pay bonus.
Absolutely. There's a lot of barriers that we talked about. I've been begging for somebody with a deep pocket that's a fan of track to just go and do something, or a few guys and girls with deep pockets to do something, because we goddamn deserve it. So let's jump into another field event so we make them feel happy. Mondo Duplantis is a freak human being in the pole vault, wins again. Yeah, this is now 14 out of 17 meets that he has competed that he has gone over 6 meters. Now, let's put this into perspective. He won 6.10 meters. For Americans at home like ourselves that don't know the conversion, that is 20 feet, 0.157 inches. 20 feet in the air. Second place, 3 guys at 5.8. Chris Nilsson, who seems to always be second place to Duplantis, and I feel bad for him because he's a great athlete. But they jumped 5.8. And that's only 19 feet, 0.0289. That is an incredible. It's almost a foot more that Duplantis cleared. I don't know. We were talking a little bit before, me and Hyatt, and Duplantis might be the most dominant guy in track right now since Usain Bolt. Like, he doesn't lose. He's setting world records. He continues to chase his own world records now. And it's just, I don't know. He's an absolute freak. Lynch, what do you know about Mondo Duplantis? Anything? Are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
There you are. Hey. What do you know about Duplantis? Because he's a freak.
Honestly,
if you don't.
I honestly really don't know much about him besides like the name. And I feel like very bad about that, because it's like almost in the same part for like me, where they don't like, I guess it's not like marketing athletes like that as well, because he's doing all of these huge things. It's kind of the same thing for me when like people always talk about like huge athletes and they never talk about like Ashton Eaton for like decathlons and things like that.
The greatest athlete of all time is Ashton.
A freak at being able to do all those things, and it's just not marketed well enough. Like, I follow all the track stuff on Twitter, Instagram, and I guess it just never gets catered to my feed when there's a pole vaulting post, because I'm always saying the distance stuff and the sprinting stuff and never field events. So I don't know if they just know that in my feed, but I only know the name. I know that he was a good pole vaulter, and I really need to diverse myself more, I guess, and make the algorithm like me more in the social media.
See, I think a little bit of a barrier for that marketing is that for some reason, and you guys might have an explanation for this, in track and field, for distance races, sprint races, we'll use meters. Why do we use feet in America when we go and talk about throws, or when we talk about jumps, or when we talk about pole vaults? I understand it caters more for the American audience, but it creates a bigger disconnect, especially at these global meets when we're talking meters, and then suddenly the American audience has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, we've briefly talked about this, how we are the only country who's holding on to feet, yards, but
pretty much.
The metric system is such an easier concept. It's all by tens and zeros, and it just makes so much sense. But I think we do it here because we don't want to give up things that we've had in the past. Like we were talking, I don't know if it was last week, like the mile run is like everything in track and field. And that is not, you can't get that. I think it's close to like 1,607 meters.
1,632.
Or something.
Oh, it's not that much.
No, it's like 1608, I think.
Is it 1608?
I think it's like
1632. Okay.
Oh, 1609.
I was close.
Anyway, but it would definitely make it easier, because like when we're watching these races, like I do have to get out the conversions to see what it is for feet, because that's what we're so versed in here in America, is feet and inches.
So maybe we'll look this up, because there was a time where I've talked to older coaches, or even older than you, Dave, and they said that when they were younger, though, they would run the 440. They would run the 880, the 220. They were running in yards. So I'm curious when America did decide that they wanted to give up on running yards and doing meters instead. But there also is the fact that it is a little bit easier to translate for Americans. Americans are not, we're not very well versed in, we're taught very basics on the metric system. So then when they go to meters there, I don't know. It's a weird thing. And we have to figure something out. Because, when you get to a high level, it is all in meters. So, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think that is definitely a little bit of a barrier, because you go from understanding, okay, this 22-foot long jump is great, what the hell does 7 point something to meters mean? Like,
I mean, at least at the base level, like with most of the meets being on like Peacock and NBC, is they could at least, like, even when you're watching them, they don't throw a conversion up there. It's literally just done in meter. Like, you got to have some guy that's working behind the scenes that can get a quick conversion and just throw it up as a graphic next to the meter.
They're not catering to Americans, though. We're not big track fans. We are.
That's the problem too. It's
but
big,
that's why there's always a British guy doing commentary, not an American.
Yeah.
Like,
but they will do it if it's like the U.S. Nationals. They will have usually the foot conversion.
Yeah, and
next to the national meter.
It's like one instance though out of like the full year. It's like okay.
All right, so let's go ahead, Joe.
Interestingly enough, before we switch topics real quick, a lot of college timers are actually going to meters as well for jumps and throws, which I think signals a little bit of a change in the guard, because if you can get college athletes to kind of have a better understanding for that, it's going to trickle down into high school athletics, and then into your much more general audience as well.
Yeah, I think they should. I think one standard would be a good thing. I think that it wouldn't take much to kind of retrain everybody's brains to go into meters mode. It's like outside of the mile, which is like kind of the golden goose of track and field. Outside of that, there's no need to hold on to it. But let's jump into a few more races because we still have a lot to talk about today. 200-meter men, Noah Lyles is just continuing to put on a show. 19.56 in the win. The story might really be, though, Michael Norman running a 19.76 running in second there.
Yeah.
He is just unbelievable. Arian Knighton didn't have a great race, but he's allowed to have a bad race. I expect more of Joseph Van Bella. He had a long year. He's the 100 and 200 meter champion at NCAA, so I think his legs might just be burnt out. But, man, Lyles and Norman, a little bit of a budding rivalry if Norman continues to get better here, because, man, that 1976 is good enough to win a lot of races. I know Lyles just doesn't like losing, but unbelievable. I see you shaking your head a little, Davern.
Yeah,
Me too.
I don't think Norman's going to go down in distance. I think he's just too dominant right now at the 400-meter distance. Now, it is cool, though, because he did struggle for what felt like 2 years at the 400-meter distance, and he finally rebounded this world championship season. But like I said, I just don't see him coming down to the distance, and I don't think he has the short gate speed to kind of – he has the explosiveness out of the blocks, but he doesn't have the speed to outrun Lyles at 200 meters.
I mean, I don't think you can have a rivalry when one person keeps on winning. But the person who I do think can have a rivalry with Lyles in a 200 is Curly, because he's got the speed, he's got the strength. I mean, he might be the greatest all-around sprinter ever, not in terms of like world records, but I mean, to run 43, 19.7, 10.6, I mean, that's pretty insane. So he's the guy that I think could be the one who could push Curly, but he seems pretty fixated on that 100 now.
And I think Arian Knighton obviously creates a really interesting case just because of his age.
I think people forget that he was in high school last year.
Yeah. I mean, he's 18, 19?
Yeah.
I think he's 19
should be
now.
19 now, yeah.
And if Christian Coleman gets his shit together, we forget. He needs to get his shit together. He needs to get, healthy, stop doing illegal stuff. And, we've seen guys come back and bounce back. We've seen, Justin Gatlin, guys that have gone through this type of stuff, bounce back and still be good. So I'm not putting out of the realm of possibility that Christian Coleman can come back, mostly because he's being trained by Mo Green. He's been trained by Mo Green for years now. When I talked and interviewed Mo Green a few years ago now, he's training him. And when you're being trained by one of the fastest runners of all time, there's still always a chance that you bounce back. So I'm keeping my eye on him. Let's jump into Davern Woodhouse, 3,000 meter steeplechase. American Evan Yeager, first time running the steeplechase in years. Solid performance. Comes out and runs at 8:16 in a field that had the winning time of 8:02, which is absolutely incredibly world class. He's 10 seconds ahead of everybody. The second place time was 8:12.
He won by 10 seconds. That's crazy.
Yeager was right in that pack that got strung out towards the end. Strong showing by him, but I mean, we got to talk about Soufiane El Bakali because 8:02.45. That's a statement. That is a statement. Just coming out in 10 seconds. Davern, the steeple is a ridiculous race. Like, it really is. It is They tried to make XC on the track. They kind of just made hell on the track instead. What is wrong with you people?
Yeah. I mean, you could have the debate, what's the hardest event in track and field all day, but to the end of my life, I will say it's the 3,000 meter steeple. And it is crazy how easy these athletes are making it look nowadays. I mean, to run 8:02 and that not even be your season best is just absurd. It literally, imagine running an 800-meter race 4 times, and that's basically what you're getting in the steeplechase. And when you consider the fact that they're running 8:02 over 35 barriers, it's unworldly. And you know, you look at what the men are doing, and I almost wish on the women's side that they would go up in height a little bit, but that's a whole different argument altogether. But yeah, Bekele he's the best in the world right now, and he honestly, if he ran the 5,000 meter distance, if he ran the 3K Open, I think he would just be just as competitive. So it's cool to see that finally it's becoming an event where athletes are actually choosing it instead of it being a leftover. So
yeah, instead of like the coach being like, "Hey, I really need you to do this for me."
I'll say this quickly. What did I tell you coming out of high school, Davern? What did I told you what your race was going to be in college, did I not?
Yeah, I mean, you were close.
I told you were going to be a steepler.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't have believed it until the first time I got in the track.
Listen, he runs 3:31 PR in the 15. So I mean, he can win it by going out. He can sit and kick. I don't think he's lost in like 2 years in that event. He's just running unbelievable. It's crazy to watch.
I mean, he's like 6'6" too, so it makes it a little bit easier for him.
Hey, that's a lot to carry over, though. And you still have to have the good technique to do it. The height can only do so much. A lot of tall, goofy dudes that can't run fast.
That's true.
So, Lynch, have you ever gone over a barrier in your life?
Like I said, I coach hurdles now, and I haven't gone over a barrier in my life.
I love it. I love it. Let's jump down to a big race in the women. The 100-meter women, Lane Thompson-Herah gets a DQ. So obviously the fastest woman on the planet is in the race. But American Aaliyah Hobbs beat Sharika Jackson in a really good time of 10.87, 0.01 ahead of her and 0.02 ahead of third place, Mary Jose Talu. But also Tamari Davis and Twanisha Terry were both in this race of America. So it was a class field in the 100-meter. That's a huge win in confidence for Elena Hobbs. I did not expect Hobbs to be competitive in this race.
I didn't either at all.
I think, we got the bad news about 10 minutes before the race that Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price was there, but she couldn't run. And then Herrera Thompson goes out. So it's like, not taking anything away from Hobbs, but it's, like you kind of wish that they were all there because Fraser-Price is just, she's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. And I love these waves that we see in track where certain dominant people just come in and they're just so impressive and so fun. And Davern, you have anything to add with the 100 there?
Just another unfortunate DQ at the start of that race. But
how do you feel about the single DQ when you're out, the single jump DQ?
I understand its use at the lower levels, just because you can't be waiting around for 32 heats of the 200 in a high school meet. But at this level, you would really like to see a little bit more leniency, just because if you want fans to come pay to see the best athletes compete, they need to compete. And it's just unfortunate you see one of the best in the world not compete because of just, a little error. So I would like to see that change at the top level, at least.
I think it's fine, to be honest, because if you're at that level, you should be able to. I understand there's emotions and jitters that comes through all the time, and I kind of have a differing point with like high school and stuff. Like at least not with like the 32 heats of like a normal invitational, but when you get to like sectionals and stuff like that, and you got kids that are showing up for the first time, it can be like a freshman, sophomore that's finally getting their chance, and they get so jittery and they mess up and they get kicked out right away if they DQ once. And Alex from my team has done that a couple times. He actually, in indoor this past year, he at sectionals got jittery, jumped off way before the gun, like a good 3 seconds before the gun. And he went out, and then just an immediate DQ. He didn't get a chance to go to meet a champs at all in the indoor season because of that one mess up at sectionals, where pros, I think, should be able to hone in their emotions a little bit more. Like, you went through the many years of high school, through college. Maybe some of them didn't go to college, but they still went through at least a couple of years of figuring out what a high level feels like. And I think they should be able to at least hone it in for a second and just be able to go off of it. But I don't know. I understand the other point where it's like you need more fans to come in and actually get a show out of it. So that's the entertainment aspect of it, right? You need them to have a show. So
I like Hardo Lynch. I like it.
I just feel like it's become way too sensitive, whether it's the way that the blocks are made. Like, what happened to Davern Allen was a disaster. So like, I feel like if it's blatant, fine, but I mean, these athletes train for that split second where everything's perfect, and every starter has a different cadence with how they start and how much time that they have pause in the blocks. And I feel like the blocks now are so sensitive with any sort of weight shift that it's really difficult to say, like, was that a false start? Was it not? And did it really have any impact on the race whatsoever?
I mean,
I think. Go ahead, John.
If it was me, it would be a discretionary call on the eye of the official. I don't think we should go to technology here. I'm sorry, but it's a man's sport. It's meant to be a man's sport. I think while we're at it, let's get rid of those stupid pacing lights. But I think it's a man's sport.
Hate those.
It should be up to the eye of the beholder, or the ref in this case, or the official rather, to make the call.
I agree with that, but I also think that the pacing lights can also add something for a fan who's maybe not as well versed in the sport. So if they keep up with those lights, then it means, but maybe have them only so that they're on the television and not on the actual track.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Themselves.
For me, I think the Universal World Championship meet should be warning to the field if that happens. And how much longer are you really losing? 30 seconds to a minute? That's not going to turn your programming over completely. I think a warning to the field is fair. You get the jitters out. I see what you're talking about, Lynch, with world-class athletes, and no other sport really gets a repeat. I get it. But, man, that's tough if, you get the best guy or best female in the whole field out, and then everyone came to see them, and now you're taking away the 9 seconds of glory you get to watch them run. So this is a good debate. I like it. We're definitely going to have to bring this back. Hyatt, we got to put this in our back pocket for a conversation starter with other people.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give a shout out. We've been giving a shout out to Allie Wilson every single week in this show because she has continued to come on very strong in the 800, the 1500 at a Diamond League meet, a big meet with a pretty good field with the winning time of 157.84. She comes in second, 158.09, and almost wins this one. I'm just giving a shout out to Allie. And I think the big news in this race for American side, Sinclair Johnson dropping down from the 1500, breaking 2 minutes. It's pretty good. That's our best 1,500 meter runner for women. And to show a good range and good wheels dropping down to 159.9, breaking 2, taking 6, that's pretty good. Anyone want to jump in? Anyone have anything to say about the 800 here? No?
I think you hit it pretty much right there on the head. Allie Wilson just continues to prove that she is a world-class 800-meter runner. Yeah, and it's just great to see, her, right up the road here at Monmouth University. I mean, she's just not afraid to mix it up. And maybe that's because the U.S. women are so absolutely tough in that event. So she, like every meet that she goes to, it's hard to make the U.S. team when you have, her, Ajay, thing, like you have all these runners. So like, it's just great to see. Like I'll say it again. I say it every week. The fact that you can get 4 girls from the state of New Jersey could probably win the world championships in the 4x8, and you could throw in 5 of them because you have Olivia Baker running like a 158 low. So that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So let's jump into another race that we're all going to sink our teeth into because the 3,000 meter women kind of stole the show. You had a meet record from Francine Nyansaba. Sorry, I mispronounced your name. Francine Nyansaba. But for Americans, for what we're looking for, Alicia Monson was 0.01 away from winning this race and setting the meet record. The times were 8:26.80 and 8:26.81. Great times in the 3,000 meters. I mean, when was the last time we got to see her and also another Elise Cranny running at 8:29.05 for the Americans, finishing sixth? When was the last time we had not one but two women that were legitimate threats in the 3,000 meter race, where typically your African women have been dominant? Maybe a British woman jumping up there because the British have a very proud distance tradition. But Lynch, I'm going to start with you. How have you ever, in your lifetime, have you ever seen the American women threatening like this?
No. And it's crazy because as we were getting onto this show, as the quick time I had to do research when I was looking stuff up, this is actually like one of the first videos that popped up for me. And I actually sat there and watched the entire race before. And I was like, holy crap, I have not seen anything like that before. I mean, I've only been around watching track since I was like 12-ish, I want to say. So I've only been watching for 12 years. And I never envisioned it at all in the 12 years of watching. I envisioned it in like the male side where we always had some decent guys coming up, but I never anticipated to have this depth show up for the women's 3000. And I love watching the 3000. It's one of my favorite ones to actually watch on the track. It's so fun to see them just whip around crazy lap times.
The clash of 1,500 runners versus 5K runners makes that the most fascinating race on the track to me, especially because there's no barriers slowing them down.
Yeah, exactly. You get to see like which 5K runners have the wheels and which 15 runners have the endurance with the wheels.
I think the biggest takeaway is how strong of a field it was. I mean, you have Kikembo in there, you have Chibet, you have Hassan, you have Mir. So it's not like Monson just ran away with the win. I mean, she had to run hard. She had to run a gutsy race, and even then, it wasn't enough. To have two Americans in the top six of such an elite field is really impressive, and hopefully that translates strongly as we head into the indoor season.
And you mentioned Laura Mir, 1,500 meter European champion, so definitely good shout out to her. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. I'm saying like she just ran like the absolute perfect race. Like she took it. She kind of knew like, listen, I don't have the finish that these girls have, but I'm going to make them all pay, and I'm going to make them all suffer. And I guess the big thing you see on Twitter is, did she celebrate maybe a meter or two early, thinking that she had to win and get past? I don't know. She might have got caught anyway, but she just ran an absolute perfect race. Her strategy was dead on, and it was just amazing to see. And I kept waiting for her to get past with 600 to go, 400 to go, 200 to go, but she just kept digging, and just putting it on, and it was amazing. You know what?
Good for her, because like Davern said, she was leading the field and probably a good chance at winning with Chibet, Hassan, Kikembo, like this world-class field that could be the finals of a World Athletics Championship. So great race there. It was lots of fun. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Femke Bol. Coming in, 400-meter hurdles, fresh off her double at the European Championship, 52.95. She just doesn't let up. Again, people are saying there, whenever people on Twitter or something give a big props to Femke Bol, she's not going to beat Sydney. Who cares? Femke Bol's a monster. And she's also young. We're going to watch her. Who knows? She may beat Sydney at some point. We're going to watch these two compete for the next decade against each other. And it's going to be amazing. Now, my heart, and I have to go out to Delilah Muhammad. She ran an abysmal race. I don't know how much more Delilah Muhammad has in the tank in order to compete with your Femke Bol and your Sydney McLaughlin.
I mean, she was there.
It's tough. It's tough because I love Delilah Muhammad and how good of a competitor she is.
She was leading though with about the 250 mark. Like she was right there, and then all of a sudden I look down at my watch. I look up and like, what happened? Like, did she fall? No, she just gassed out. But she is older, but I don't think she's quite done yet.
I hope not.
I don't think it matters. I don't think anyone's beating Sydney McLaughlin at the top stage.
Me neither.
I mean, you look at this race, Sydney McLaughlin's PR is 2 seconds faster than the winner, and they were running guns out. So it's not even close. She might be the most dominant American athlete of our current generation, and I don't think it's particularly close. I don't think you can pick another athlete who's nearly as dominant in our current decade.
And she's just going to continue to stay like that for the next 10 years.
She's amazing.
And that's another Jersey athlete, as Alex just said, Union
and
Catholic.
Maybe, and you might look at the only other person in America that is doing what she does is a Thing Mo, who just doesn't lose the 800. Maybe not in the same way with the world record status, but, Keely Hodgkinson comes close to her. But if Thing Mo just keeps on finding ways to win, and she could sniff the 155 that she runs, she makes it look easy when she runs 155 a lot of times.
As dominant, though, as Sydney.
No. Listen, Sydney is different. She's different.
She's unreal. And they're all from New Jersey.
And this is why we talk also about being more marketable. Because imagine if someone could pay Sydney McLaughlin $500,000 to show up at these 6 meets and promote her. Because let's face it, she's a good-looking woman and she's extremely good at her sport. Those two things, that she should be well in the millions of dollars, like extremely wealthy for what she does. And it's a shame that she's not up there as one of the highest paid athletes on the planet.
She's a genuinely amazing human being, too. I remember coaching.
She got married, too.
Yes, she has a second hyphenated name now. I forget exactly what it was.
Sorry, everybody. That was hoping she would never get married and think you had a shot with her. You don't. You don't. She's married to probably somebody who's amazing. Sydney McLaughlin Levrone is her last name. That's pretty
but cool. I remember when I was coaching high school, she was in high school, and the meets would just stop. Like every coach's athletes, they were just like, it was unreal. And she would always say, she would always just go up to the person who would finish last. She was just an amazing human being too. And her brother was also, I think, won the MOC 400 hurdles too.
Yeah, he doesn't matter. He's just Sydney McLaughlin's brother now.
I think her issue from a marketability standpoint is the fact that she does only run 4 meets a year, and her name isn't in the mainstream media on a consistent basis. Of course, when World is around, it's in the media for a week, and then track and field stories die off. But if she were running 8 meets a year, all right, now you're doubling your exposure. You're making sponsors a lot more likely to jump on your name, and you're kind of creating a bigger presence for yourself. So, not saying it's self-inflicted, but I think it's a decision that she's making at this point. And I think she's content with winning over making money.
I think she's doing pretty well with New Balance.
Yeah.
Alex, you have anything to add to that?
Not really. We kind of talked about her greatness and what she's going to do. So,
absolutely. So let's jump into the last topic of the show. Actually, guys, I've had a lot of fun so far on this show. So again, I appreciate. Just so everyone knows, I asked Davern and Lynch to jump on. They were supposed to come on at some point in the future. They're always chalked in as guests. I asked them last second. They were gracious enough to jump on. So everyone, again, tight on entry, NASCAR podcast. Go listen to it on Spotify. Great show. We're going to keep going. Final topic of the day. This is an article from Let'sRun.com by someone who I interviewed, Jonathan Galt. Jonathan Galt's an awesome dude. We're going to have him on the show at some point. His title, not him. Jakob Ingebrigntsen wants to triple at 2023 World Athletics needs to make one easy schedule fix. Number one, wanting to triple for a guy in his caliber, the fact that he could probably compete at a high level and be very competitive and possibly win a few of those is ridiculous in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But going into the time schedule, so World's released their schedule. They released the standards. I want to talk to you guys about the standards too towards the end of this because they're pretty awesome to me. I'm not gonna lie. But the reason why it's going to be difficult and damn near impossible for Ingebrigtsen to do this, because on day one at 7 o'clock, the 1,500 meter first round goes. Day two at 5:35, the 1,500 meter semis, and then also at day two at 6:25 p.m., the 10K final. Right there, it's over. He's not going to be able to do the triple. Now, apparently, Let's Run's coaching guru, John Kellogg, believes he can double if the 10K goes out slow, like some championship races do.
He can do it.
It would be tough, but would he be competitive? Can he do it? Here's the thing.
Yes.
Can he go out there and can he run a 28-minute 10K still after that? Absolutely. So, but is he going to be able to be competitive and win that race or be top three?
I don't think first of all, yes. But second of all, I don't think, because I also read the article and I believe it states that there was no other time where the 1,500 first round and second round were on back-to-back days. If you bump the second round or the semis back to day 3, then he can run 1,500, 10K, semis, 15, and then have a break for the 5 and the 15. So it's just moving one event, one day. I don't see why this is even a topic of discussion. You have to cater to your athletes. That's how you're going to get fans. I don't get it.
Davern, it makes it. You sound like you. Do you think Ingebrigtsen can sweep the 3 if he was in all 3?
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I think
that tickles my fancy.
I think his only challenge is going to be that 10. Obviously, the 10K. I mean, it's glaringly obvious.
Behemoth, yeah.
But come on. We've been watching these championship races for years now. Those 1500s for him, they're a jog fest until the last 400 meters. He drops a 50, 55, 54, and he's in. And that's all it takes for those 1500s to move on to the next round for him. And you go into the 10K. I mean, it might be fast, it might not be, but realistically, those guys aren't worried about Jakob. They're worried about each other. But if we look at it from a fundamental standpoint, I think the 1500 going into the 10K wouldn't be worse than doing a workout, beforehand. I think a workout would probably be worse than that 1500 meter semi.
And I mean, and let's face it, how often in the World Championships or the Olympics do they actually run fast races in the longer distance? It's all usually sit and kick. And that caters to him. I mean, if it was a Diamond League meet, I would say no chance. But since it's the Worlds, all those races are just sit. And who's going to outkick him? Nobody.
Yeah. And then after that, I mean, he has 3 days to recover before the final. And then another day before the semis. So I think
if I'm in that 10K field, I'm demanding a rabbit at world record pace just to make sure that he cannot sit and kick. But here's my issue. Here's my only issue. Because do I think he could potentially do it? Absolutely. That's a lot of running. By day 9, that's a lot of running. He still has to run a 5K semi on day 6 and then a 5K final on day 9, which is the final day. It's late in the evening, and they're going to run that fast because they're going to put on a show. And he's in the field, and they know he's not going to mess around, especially on tired legs. He's going to try and get what he needs to get done. He's going to be exhausted. He is human. Contrary to popular belief, he is human.
Well, I mean,
can he do 15, 10K, and then 1500? He can. Get into that 5K, I think, will be tough. I think I don't know. The man's human.
Honestly, if we're talking about what race is going to be hardest to win, it might be the 1500 final. Just because he didn't even win it this year.
Yeah, he didn't win it this year. I mean,
monster, exactly.
It's all Worlds.
Great Britain, he's incredible.
He didn't win it this year,
Yeah. So, I think they should move it because why not? How many times do we get a guy of his caliber that wants to? They should move the one day. Just give him space. Why not move the 1500 meter semis? Like I had said, it's never been back to back. There's no reason. Put it on day 3.
You can't move it for one guy.
I feel like that opens like a Pandora's box for like other athletes.
I don't think other guys would mind having an extra day's rest either. I mean, so like it really kind of helps everyone.
But if you're in that 5K final, the last thing you want is him to be fresher.
Yeah.
You don't want him to have an easier time getting to that point. If you're in that 5K final, you want him to be tired.
No, you actually want them to change it because then he'll have to run the 10K as well, so he won't be as fresh.
In theory, but I mean, we're talking when you're running consecutive days, your legs are going to be more tired 3 days down the line than if you have space in between those days.
I just feel like you have to cater to these people because if you want fans, especially here in America, they want to see dominance. Like this would be a Michael Phelps type performance if he can pull this off. Plus, also make it so that Femke and Sydney can also double. Like that's like one little switch too. Like you got to get these races with the best go against the best as often.
Yeah, that's how you would make it more marketable easily. Just get him so that each athlete can just keep getting the doubles and triples down.
I think he's going to try it anyway. I think if they move it or not, he's probably going to try it.
He's a badass.
He has such a.
He said he mentioned like even wanting to try and do it at like the 2024 Olympics in that interview as well.
Well, the most recent one, he just got COVID and couldn't qualify in the 10K. Now, in this article, they mentioned some interesting stuff about potential Sydney and Femke Bull competing in the 400 and 400 hurdles. The whole entire thing I want to see thrown in is they talk about also a thing Mo possibly doing the 4-8 double.
Mm-hmm.
No.
If a thing Mo does that, I want Sydney and Femke to also do it because I would love a final with those 3 women in there. Because, man, what would you see? You would see Sydney McLaughlin setting the world record in the 400, and you would see Femke Bull You would see Miller Weibo. You would see Bing Mo. Just the whole entire group racing. You'd have 4 women that could potentially run each other into a world record.
Absolutely.
I need it. I need it more than I need Ingebrigtsen running the triple. I need those 3 women going at it in the 400. It'll be the most epic 400-meter final in the history of possibly the sport.
Yeah, that's fair, but I don't see them all doing it. I mean, just too many
connections. You're a mile split PA now. Just start talking to people. Listen, get it done.
I think whatever race.
Should I host a race meet between those 3?
Yeah, you should.
Whatever race Sydney runs, I think she's going to win. Hands down. She's just that good.
No, that's not a question anymore.
I would love to see her run an 800.
I would too.
Oh my God,
an 800. I think people always talk about like
155 in her first race. I guarantee she'd run a 155 just by hanging on to people.
Yeah, the hurdles can translate into the 800. It's happened so many times.
She'd use a thing as her rabbit, just hang out.
Yeah.
Well, a thing doesn't really like. Well, I guess it depends on the field.
She's won in a few different ways. She's won in almost every way. Keely Hodgkinson has presented a brand new challenge for her because it was Ajay Wilson for a little, but Ajay Wilson was also her training partner. So they kind of knew each other very well from racing. And again, Ajay, 155 runner herself, so she's unbelievable. But she really didn't know Keely Hodgkinson very well. And it is now twice that those two have gone to war. And yes, the thing Mo's gotten the better of her twice. But man, third time, Keely's not backing down. And it's incredible. We're at such a fun time for women's like mid distance and
it's amazing
long sprints. It's a good time. And now you have the 3K women. It's a good time to segue into our final topic here. They came out with the 2023 World Athletic Championship standards. Now, Hyatt, you have a problem with them.
I think they're a little steep in certain aspects.
They need to be steep. I love it. Only the best can qualify.
I haven't even seen them yet.
I guess so, but you're taking away like there's going to be so many countries who will have nobody running
good
at all.
So let's talk about some of the harder ones.
But it's the World Championships, not like the European and North American Championships. Like you're supposed to I don't know.
So in the 1500 meter, you have a 334 for the men.
That's not that bad.
5K 1307, 10K 2710. 445 flat, 800 144.7. So they are difficult. 3K steeple, 815. It's hard, but it is the world. Crap. So here's the thing: if your country's not fast enough to get there, then good, don't go. That's not a big deal to me. Like here's the thing: Ethiopia took second at Worlds, I believe. Well, Ethiopia, one of them, not Ethiopia, maybe. It was a African nation that took second in medal count at Worlds. It can be done. They're going to dominate.
So you would have zero American men. I think this year, I don't think any man ran faster than a 144.7, right? So none.
No.
You'd have no men in the steeple. I mean,
who
would you have? But I mean, I just feel like it's a little too progressive. It's a little too fast.
Guys, what do you think on that?
I think they're trying to make it more elite. Which I don't hate. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I mean, even that 1307 is kind of like, wow. All right. Well, who's going to make that? Grant Fisher. That's it.
Yeah, that's
but
insane.
you also have to run it early. Like you have to run it early.
You have to run early. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that marathon standard is insane. Can we just talk about that?
The 209 for the men, 228 for the women is incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean,
220. The women's are not much easier.
That 209 though is just
that's insane. I didn't know it was a 209. Dude.
I mean, we have one American who's who can do that right now.
I feel like it's tough for me with this because it's like you want to make it more marketable, and by having more countries in it, it gets more marketable by nature because Americans are going to want to watch more Americans. Like the only people to watch track right now are like the diehard fans, and they know all the athletes already. Yeah. But if Americans, if Canadians, if they don't have people to root for from their country, they're probably not going to care as much unless they're already in the sport. And if you're making the standards that high, yeah, it's providing an elite culture to come in. And I like that you kind of have that, but it's also like you're not going to have the marketable nature of it. And you want to get more people in the sport. So it's tough. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
I also think
I'm cool.
What do sports fans love? They love the chance of an underdog. This takes that completely away. Everybody there is elite. So you're not going to have your Dave Waddle winning the 800 meters. Like you're not going to have that because everybody there is they're all pretty much same. Close to that same level.
I guess I'm just okay with it because you get the elite, you get the best there, and again, the chance of the upset isn't there, but also the chance of your favorite athlete not. They're going to make sure they lock it in. Your best in the world are going to make sure they lock it in, and they're going to make sure they get there.
I want to look at the current rankings for the world.
Go ahead. We'll chit chat while you do that.
Yeah, we'll pick an event.
Pick an event. Just go with the 800. The 144.7 is incredibly difficult.
That is really such difficult. Insane.
Insane standard. I don't know if any American male has run that.
Donovan Brazier, I think, has a 143
this year.
I believe so. Early on, he shit his pants every time championship comes, but he's really fast when it doesn't matter.
Oh, he
so you can't deal with the pressure type of thing. Yeah,
I think Donovan Brazier. I think he has a 143 this year, if not a 142 at some point. He's our best American 800 meter runner.
I think he has a 42 PR, but I'm not sure if that was. I don't think he ran that.
But you have to look. Sure 10 flat is not a difficult thing for the men. If you aren't running sub 10, you should not be at the world.
Yeah, no, sprinters. It's fine.
20.16, you should not be at the world championships if you're not sub 20. 45
even. Is so fast, man.
Yeah,
I think it
definitely gets harder from the 8 up. I feel is definitely a much harder.
Yeah, I think it's way more a problem with the distance events than it is the sprints because the sprints are just.
Did you say it was 27? What 10K?
The 10K is 27:10. Maybe though they've seen some of the heats in the lower ones. Not producing. And you know what? They're not thinking of Americans with the 5K and the 10K and the steeple.
Right. No.
They're thinking of the African nations. They're thinking of some of those.
Should, right.
And they're going to qualify. They're going to be fine with those times. They're going to have a handful of dudes in each of those nations that qualify. And women over on the other side with the 30-40 qualification for the 10K, 14:57 for the 5K, and for the 3K, 9:23 women, which is all incredibly fast. But it should
What's the women's steeple?
The women's steeple is 9:23. It's fast.
That's so fast.
So Bryce Hoppel has run 143.
Hoppel has, all right.
He ran that in 2020 though. So I mean,
I'm talking about just like this season.
Yeah,
this is also going to push more athletes to get the. I think when you know what the standards are, they know what it is now. So they're now going to start basing their training a different way to get there, to get that World A standard early. Where the training was different before.
But then how many guys have to peak early and then by the time they get to Worlds, they're already spent?
Good coaching, good facilities, good plans. They're world-class athletes. They do this for a living. They know how to do this. They have their health stuff. I mean, I don't have a problem with making the world standard absolutely elite.
Go ahead, Johnny, go ahead.
So hang on. Can you repeat that standard for the 800? What was
144.7.
Okay, so 144.7, there have been a respectable 28 people who have gone fast on that this year, which is more than I thought there was going to be.
Me too.
Bryce Hoppel has, from the American side, he's the only American who has gone faster than that. Great Britain has 3 guys in it. And then there's actually a pretty decent mix of different countries. Obviously, Kenya has 5 or 6 guys, 7 maybe.
All right.
So it's more than I thought there was going to be.
I guess they know what to set up for their standards then.
And just imagine if they jump that up to 145.8 or just to go a full second, you're not going to expand the field to maybe 80 dudes.
Yeah,
and then you're going to have to make sure that they do. And then it all starts again as semantics because even if you get the A standard, you have to be at a certain number in the ranking in order to get invited and qualify. This way, you 28 guys to duke it out.
But you still have to, qualify from your own country. That's not changing.
So on the marathon,
steeple is crazy.
In the marathon, this is outrageous. I haven't looked at this, so I haven't seen this obviously. But 149 people have gone faster than 209 this year. How is that even possible?
The marathon popularity is increased significantly.
But that's
incredible. How do you justify a standard for a marathon? Every course is different. It's so hard to just say you went 209. Well, where in works harder than Boston. You know, like it's
Now
so hard.
There's a lot of Japanese athletes on that list.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm curious to see where they've been running that.
The Japanese have also stepped up. They have 2 elite steeplechasers that were at the Worlds. I think one was at this Diamond League race, and I think they have some Japanese their distance has stepped up 100% on the men's side. But yeah, so Davern, you looked it up, and these are difficult times, but I don't mind that they're difficult. I'm not worried about other countries not being represented. Step up your training.
Yeah, but we won't be represented.
Okay, then we don't deserve to be.
And, Johnny, I got one more. 907 in the men's steeple. To me, that is the most ridiculous one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 807.
915.
No, it's 815.
815.
I was thinking women's 907, right?
Give me 1 second.
Women's 923.
Never mind. I don't know what I was thinking.
815. It's pretty selective. Only 16 men have done it this year.
Wow.
Only American have done it this year is Hillary Bohr. He ran 812 this year.
My point with that is now that they know the standards, though, you'll see a lot more people getting under it because they'll know where they have to go.
I mean,
they figure it out. Elite athletes figure this type of stuff out.
One thing that it could do, being positive, is maybe get more people to run at the American Track League meets because it's closer, it's here, and they can set up almost like a time trial there.
No, but that makes certain athletes just focus up on one then, and we see less and less athletes decide to double and triple because now if they know the time limits are that low, or they're just going to focus their entire training on that one event, and now you're going to see less and less athletes trying to do that double triple.
You want my opinion?
Yeah.
Here's what you do. If you want the season to be longer, you want to elongate how many times these people compete. You mandate how early the trials are before the World Finals. So if you have the trials in June, you say, all right, the World is going to be in August. So now you have to, these athletes are going to have to bridge these 2-month blocks. They might not like it, but for the entertainers, for the
June
sports
is early though, man. Because I feel like now they're in mid July, and then the Worlds are the end of August or mid August.
No,
it was a quick turnaround. It was a 5-week turnaround from trials to Worlds. It was quick. I agree with that though. I think that's a good. And again, I don't know. I like these standards. I like difficult standards because I want the best of the best to be represented. I don't want someone to squeak in. Because that would have probably been me if I was ever a world-class athlete, just a squeaker.
So you don't have any sense of romanticism with a
Cinderella stories.
No. Who trains their whole life at a chance of making I'm top 3 in my country. I get to represent my country in a world championship. You have no sense of that at all. No,
the Cinderella will be the guy that gets in at 144.7 flat, barely makes it, and then ends up running the race of his life, wins a tactical race, gets a PR at 143, and there's your romanticism.
143.
Yeah, that's a big
He's running on 144.7. Well, the race is not going to go slower than that in the 800 championship.
Cold-hearted question.
I am cold-hearted. Kind of a douche. All right, everybody. I like this show. I think we had some fun here today, boys.
I think so too.
We got the technical difficulties out of the way for Lynch, and he came and hung out with us. That was nice.
Being a boomer, I apologize.
Yeah.
And listen, I want you guys all to remember one thing. The most important coach you'll ever have in your life is your middle school cross country and track.
It makes sense to me.
It does.
It makes sense to me. Set me up for success.
So again, really thank you guys for joining us. John Davern, Alex Lynch, co-host of Tight on Entry podcast, NASCAR podcast. Find it on Spotify. Go Twitter and Instagram, Tight on Entry. It's a cool little logo you'll see. It says Tight on Entry, kind of has a NASCAR stripe. It's pretty dope. And again, for joining us, as always, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. You can find us anywhere you can find a podcast. Spread it word of mouth. Go find us on Twitter at Talking in Ovals. Hi, anything to close out here?
Send us your PRs.
Yes. Send us your PRs. We still haven't gotten any. We're mad at all of you.
Shout outs. We don't care how fast or slow. We want to give you guys a shout out on this podcast. So send in your PRs and you'll get a shout out from us.
I'll send you my
spreading that word.
Send you my PR when I make my marathon debut in 3 months.
Oh,
It's a guaranteed PR because it's your first
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
And I'll take it. Listen, we'll take it. Listen,
Take it.
we want PRs. I don't care if it's a good effort. It doesn't have to necessarily be a PR. If you just ran a great training run and it was a fast training run and you're like, this is awesome. I just hit my 6 mile I've only run it in 40 minutes at my fastest. I just ran 39. I want it. Tell us. We want to give people shout outs. Lynch, you better be telling your athletes that we want shout outs for them.
Of course.
Too.
I'll be
If that kid breaks 5 for the first time in the mile, we want to know. We want to shout out.
Yeah, exactly. Right? We actually have a few kids that can do that, like 3 of them too.
Let's do it. We want to give it out to a potential millions upon millions of listeners, which we don't have yet. All right, everybody. I appreciate everyone for listening. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week talking to Nobles. So long, everyone.